Alright, so I've got some new transitions coming. These are similar to something that has existed. So for a while we've had the center ignition out and center ignition in, as well as the retractions. But how they've been done, even in the current OS, is it was actually a join of the wipe in from the tip and then a wipe. So what ended up happening was the timings were never right because you actually had two transitions running where it would be running from this direction and running from that direction, and until it got to the midway point, each of the transitions obscured the other. So particularly on ignitions where you had the center out ignition, you had this little bit of a delay. Now if you had a really quick ignition it wasn't noticeable, but if you extended it, it was. But that's just because how it was being done was that side was coming this way, this side was going that way, but they were covering each other till they hit the midpoint, and then they would take over. The other limitation was that it always had to go to the dead center of the blade, but with responsive effects that didn't always line up well. So now I've made, with some help from Frederick, a center wipe ignition and a center wipe in retraction, this is kind of a demo. So this is just this is going to be the center out, and this one is set up for the center. So, but you'll see there's no delay in it. So it's just going to be, and then your retraction is going to go back to the middle. So there's zero delay because it is actually using the center of the blade to ignite and retract. So one more time. And the timing is also exact. So the timing that it takes to get from the center to the end is the real time as opposed to being 50% of the time. But so now, on top of that, this new transition actually can use any center point. So the old one always had to be the 50%, the middle of the blade, because you were doing two things and having them cross over. This new one's going to be its own thing, so it doesn't have to stay at the center. So let me show that.
Select preset. Load data.
So now this one is going to, I'm sorry, this is a, although it's going to show it, this one's going to be the center in and then the center out, but this one will move its location based on turning my hilt. So you'll see now that time it went to this spot, and you'll see it'll start from that spot, but if I turn the other way, it met over here, and then it expanded from there. So it's able to actually calculate wherever you set it, and because it's using responsive controls, this one's based on the twist just because it was easier for filming. But now, let me actually give a better demo.
Select preset.
So this one's got a responsive dot that's always active. So it lets you see what the twist angle is doing. And it's not going to go to the ends because I've had it set up. But so now, let's put the dot there. Now you'll see the ignition and retraction are going to be from that spot. So they go out from that spot. And that one has a wipeout as well. Now if I move it, and I can move it while it's happening, so I can put it in, let's put it there for the ignition. Now let's move it, and let's put the retraction. So it's going to always stay lined up with wherever that effect's been set. So this allows for the ignition point to be based on your responsive controls. And then we'll show the other version.
Select preset.
Oops. So this one, this font has a long intro. So the same thing, this is set up as a dot that's going to move responsively based on twisting the angle. And then now your ignition out. So it's going to always stay in line. Oops. With wherever that is. And the timings now are also what's key. So the timing, so even though this is like a short distance and that's a longer distance, this transition also calculates the specific time. So these are going to meet at the same time, even though this is down further on the blade. So you'll see that timing happens. So it makes it a little bit better usage. And obviously there's a lot of different uses, but I had one specific one I'm going to demo. And this new style has a bunch of other stuff in it, some new stuff that I haven't announced yet, but let's take a look.
Select preset.
So this is my Eye of Sauron style, but this is an updated with OS6 capabilities. So this is going to have a pre-on that's responsive. It's going to have a post-off that's responsive, and a bunch of other effects on it. So I'll walk through it and then I'll explain it.
The ring has awoken. It's heard its master's call.
So this, obviously, the Eye of Sauron is responsive, and this one's set up to be twist. So I can twist my hilt and move the Eye of Sauron. And now my ignition, retraction, as well as pre-on and post-off are all going to stay lined up. So we're going to retract. The retraction's to that spot. The post-off is to that spot. And now we'll leave it. I'm not going to turn the hilt. And now my pre-on will be in that same spot.
The ring has awoken. It's heard its master's call.
So now everything's going to be able to stay nice in line, including your ignition and retractions. So I'm going to put the eye all the way up there, and then we'll retract.
You have failed.
And now when I go to ignite, it's going to be from that spot as well.
The ring has awoken. It's heard its master's call.
So now with this new center point ignition and retraction, it just gives you that much more capability to really use those responsive controls. That was always one of the limitations, was the center spot being fixed. Now with this new transition, it's never fixed, so it'll be whatever you want. So all the different effects, like the seismic charge, the hyperspace, the dual direction flames, as well as the Eye of Sauron, you can have your ignitions always keep in line with wherever that actual effect is supposed to be centered.
You have failed.
So still lots more in the work, but I wanted to show these. So these are going to be new transitions. There's also a new function in there, but the new function is actually for some other stuff too, so I'll probably do a separate video on that. But lots of more goodies coming for OS 6, so hope you enjoy.